Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia Summer Series, the series where we find out why Australians love the game of NFL. Joining Charlie and myself today is a 268 game player in the top league of the NRL. He's a premiership player, he's got his own podcast, pretty handy with the golf clubs I hear as well, and he has recently announced that he's hanging up the boots, so plenty of time to swing those sticks. Joining us, Mr. Chad Townsend. How are you, mate?
Very good, boys. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to today talking NFL. I'm a massive NFL guy, so today should be a lot of fun.
I imagine, given your big news this season in the NRL and also just your career in general, it's nice to be asked about a different sport for once.
It is, to be honest. I absolutely love talking NFL, and I think earlier on in my career, I kind of found love for the NFL, and I followed the Browns. There is a story to it, which I'm sure we'll get into. But the Browns are my team, and it is always nice talking about another sport other than the NRL.
All right, well, let's go back then to how you actually came to fall in love with the NFL. What was it?
So it was about, I would have been over 10 years ago. Earlier on in my NRL career, I was watching Texas A&M college football, and it was the era of Johnny Manziel and Mike Evans when they were just turning it up. And I was like, who is this guy? Johnny Football, he's must-watch TV. So I started watching Johnny Football, and it was crazy. And I was like, man, this guy's insane. He's winning in the Heismans. He's going out partying. He's doing all this stuff. And then I was like, all right, well, I like Johnny Football. Whichever team he gets drafted to, that's going to be my NFL team. So I'm like watching the draft, and then he gets drafted to the Browns, and I'm like, I'll do a bit of history on the Browns, and I'm like, oh gosh, he's going to a team that's just hasn't had any good history at the quarterback position or any success ever. And anyway, the years after that, I'm like, well, they didn't win a game for like a couple of years, and I'm like, I stuck solid. I bought the Manziel jersey, then I got the Baker Mayfield jersey, and we've had some up and downs at the quarterback position, but look, I've stuck solid. I mean, some guys jumped on when OBJ got traded there. But yeah, I've stuck solid, and it's been a wild ride, that's for sure.
Did you get into the Manziel documentary stuff, like having a look at, like, literally just how unprofessional he was behind the scenes at the Browns?
Yeah, Charlie, the craziest thing for me was like that he just didn't watch film. He just didn't watch any review, and I was like, for a position like you are the face of the franchise, like I know, speaking for myself, like being a halfback in the NRL, like we are the guys who need to be watching the most film on our team and on opposition teams. And I don't know, like I used to love Manziel, and a part of me, like, it was hard to watch because I'm like, he had one opportunity to go in and make a career of the NFL and to make all this money and to leave a legacy and play well, and he just sort of messed it up because he didn't want to be a professional. And that was hard for me to watch. I was like, I'm not sure if I like this guy anymore.
It's almost, I kind of look at him like the anti-Tom Brady. You know, like Tom Brady is the guy that had zero hype and put in all the work and got all the reward. And Manziel is just the opposite.
Complete opposite. And I mean, that's just what it goes to show. I mean, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, and that's the exact case of that. And I think, you look at Tom now, like obviously his legacy speaks for itself, but the rewards and the amount of money he's made are there. If you want to put in the work, you know what I mean, there's rewards at the end of it, and Manziel just didn't want to buy it.
And you say, like yourself, obviously Charlie and I haven't made it to the top level of any sports.
Yet.
Come on. Yeah, we're still talking.
Still young.
Watching Johnny Football, and he was out partying, the night of a game and things, like getting home and getting a couple hours sleep before the game. Like, can you even imagine doing things like that?
Well, I can't fathom doing that, to be honest. I know there are certain guys in the NRL who, I would say, I don't think they don't do that, but they do things a little bit differently, you know what I mean? What works for some doesn't work for others, but drinking on the night before a game or the day of a game or whatever it may be is just crazy. And I think if you're doing that, you're really sort of taking the mickey out of your position, and there's probably no wonders as to why, he ended up being a bust, and big class is probably a failure in the NFL.
So hang on, just before we go further, I'm really curious about this because you've got such a unique perspective. You hear in the NFL people talk about a lot about accountability within the locker room, the way that players keep each other accountable or drive each other. Have you been in a situation in your professional career where you're playing for a club in the NRL and there is a player on the team who's not pulling their weight when other people are putting in the work and doing it right? What happens in the locker room? What's the culture like to try and correct that within the player?
Yeah, 100%. I've seen it on multiple occasions. And, there's a saying like you walk past the standards that you accept in the locker room. So, it's quite a big thing to actually be brave enough to call someone out for something that isn't the right behaviour. And I think as you get older, you tend to feel more comfortable to do that in the NRL. But I've seen arguments, I've seen fights, I've seen guys get pulled out because of behaviour or things that just aren't up to kind of the standard. Guys rocking up late to training, being sent home from training basically by teammates. You rock up to training, like, just go home. We don't want you here. If you're going to rock up, if you wear the wrong stuff. I've seen guys. I've seen 2 guys. I won't say their names. Pushed into the bathroom because they were having a disagreement and got told to sort it out themselves, and lock the door, hold it until they sorted it out to come out together. So at that top tier level, you know what I mean. You're in the business of winning, and you want to win. You want your teammates to do well, and it's easy for guys to not say something. But I feel like if you say something and you hold someone accountable, it just means that you genuinely care for the team and the results that are on the field, in my opinion.
And does that come a bit top down? Like, the coach and the coaching staff can establish that culture? To be at the start of the season or when people join the club, it's like, if someone pulls you up, it's not personal. It's because we're all here trying to achieve something.
Yeah, they definitely hold their position in that. But the most powerful position is when it comes from a player. I know that if I get told by a coach to uphold a certain standard, but then one of my teammates actually holds me to that standard, it's more powerful coming from your peers and from your teammates. So that's, in the instances that I've seen, have been the most effective ones.
So going back to that Texas A&M game, did you fall into that? Did you already follow the college football? Like, what was it about the NFL that kind of dragged you in?
Yeah, I think I just kind of fell to like a bit of the highlights of like Johnny Manziel, and sort of, I guess, social media kind of was just sort of starting then, and clips you see on kind of Facebook and stuff like that. And then, at that stage of my career, I just moved to Auckland. I was playing for the Warriors, so I had a bit of time. In my spare time, I wasn't doing too much. And then, I think it was just more like there are obviously so many differences with regards to the NFL and the NRL. But there's also so many similarities. I love talking about the quarterbacks, and we spoke about before, like the amount of film they watch, the preparation, and then like the playbook and how they go about the business. That's what really drew me in to I feel like I'm a fan of the NFL, but also I felt like it could benefit my game by just seeing how some of those quarterbacks sort of, control themselves, the poise in the pocket, the way they speak on leadership to their teams, because quite often they're team captain. So that to me was like a real draw card for why I kind of fell in love with the game.
And then so someone that you've met through your podcast or out on the golf course will say, and they say, look, I don't quite understand the draw card. How are you explaining to someone the draw card of the NFL?
Well, I think the NFL, it is obviously one of the most physical games in the world. But the big plays and the playmakers and the characters are the things that really draw me as well. Like, I love that the NFL players and almost like the Americans, it's a different culture over there to Australia. Like, you can say that I'm the best wide receiver in the league, and it's quite normal for like 6 guys to say that. Where if you're in Australia and you said, I'm the best halfback in the competition, I mean, everyone will just be into me by actually saying that. You know what I mean? So you got to have the swagger, you got to have the confidence over there, and that's why I absolutely love it as well. You know what I mean? It's a different form of sport to what we have in Australia, but the culture is so different. But I absolutely love it.
How do you think you would go with the level of pressure that ends up on individual players in the NFL? There can be a week where it feels like every single sports show is talking about one player and how the pressure's on them for Monday Night Football, and then they have to go out and do it. It's something, I don't know, it feels so much bigger than than in Australian sport. What would that be like to have that kind of pressure going on?
Yeah, look, I think it's obviously magnified over there with regards to like the American population and the sheer numbers and people that watch, the sport. Obviously, the cover, the media deal is insane. I guess it is somewhat similar here, just not on that type of level with the amount of eyeballs. In the NRL, you are under a very big magnifying glass. Your performance is, critiqued every single week. So you do get that pressure, and regardless if it's like, if it's 10 analysts or it's 100 analysts talking about your game, there's still obviously noise around that. So obviously, as an athlete, it's extremely important to sort of focus in on the things that you can control. And that was probably, one of the things I like to do over the course of my career was, hey, I know that I'm going to get judged on what I put out on the weekend and if we win or lose and if we play good or bad. But I can't control, because that same person who said to me that I've had a poor game and I haven't played well will say that I've played great and I've had a great game the next week. So you kind of got to take it as like an even keel.
So we talked about Mr. Football, or Johnny Football. Love-hate relationship, obviously, there as a man who became a Browns fan. Do you have a favourite player of all time in the NFL?
Yeah, I don't want to say because he is the GOAT, but it is hard to go past Tom Brady. I mean, just his accomplishments, the amount of success that he's had. To me, I feel like he's the greatest player to ever step foot on the field. And Charlie, you spoke about before, the ability of him when he got drafted, his combine performance, not really rated coming out of Michigan, then goes to the Patriots, sits behind Drew Bledsoe, and then gets an opportunity and just makes the most of an opportunity. So I think I've really enjoyed that story of someone who's come from nothing, who's worked his backside off, to finding out what's worked for him, to put all that time and effort, and then the success he's had speaks for itself. So obviously, in my eyes, he goes down as the greatest player to ever play.
It's funny, and we've talked about this before, Australians are much more comfortable saying that Tom Brady is their favourite NFL player of all time. I think because we didn't live in a country where our teams were being destroyed by him for quite so long. Do you know what I mean?
Well, everyone would hate him. That's what Aussies do.
Right. I mean, I'm a Bills fan, and there is no way any Bills fan who has had to suffer in the AFC East with him will say that they think he's the greatest player of all time. It's literally just an impossibility for an American Bills fan to say that. There's too much PTSD of having to take him on.
Well, it's similar, I guess, over here at the moment. You know what I mean? In Australia, obviously, the Panthers have won 4 competitions in a row, and you either love Penrith or you hate Penrith. And Aussies, again, our culture is completely different. Like we love an underdog. We don't like guys who are successful. We'll find a way to bring them down. So you're 100% right.
And you could see that with the Panthers as well as like the Chiefs. Everyone was stoked when they won their first one, but after 2 or 3 in a row, or now 4, everyone's like, nah, it's time for somebody new.
Well, I feel that the last year, you know what I mean? I feel like everyone was going for Philadelphia because they didn't want the Chiefs to win. They didn't want Kelsey and Mahomes and Taylor Swift and that movement to kind of be successful and have another Super Bowl because, again, I feel like people, much more enjoy seeing an underdog than someone who's, been really successful for a long time.
I do love that your greatest player of all time, and the stat that really sticks out for me, and look, I'm throwing out numbers here, but at one point he was more likely to make it to an AFC championship than I think Steph Curry was for hitting a 3-point. Like, it was 65% chance of him making it to the AFC, which was incredible. But what about currently, out of the current crop of Browns players? I'm presuming Myles Garrett's probably going to be up there, but do you have a current player out of any team that you kind of really stick fat with?
Yeah, I think, the Browns roster's obviously changed a lot, I feel, over the past couple of years, especially obviously the quarterback position, which is highly talked about at the moment. I've always been a big fan of the young quarterbacks that come into the league and how they kind of handle the occasion. So getting drafted in the first round is a big deal. Because you get drafted in the first round doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go on and have a long career in the NFL. So obviously we've seen guys like Bryce Young struggle. The first overall pick. We've seen Anthony Richardson, struggle. So I feel like, that quarterback position's been the one that I like to keep my eye on the most. And, guys, I guess, who come out of that, Brock Purdy, drafted late. Justin Herbert, now sort of really finding his straps. So I think to sort of narrow it down to probably one player outside the Browns has been, a little bit hard. But I'm a big fan of keeping an eye on the quarterbacks. Obviously, I play in 4 fantasy leagues as well, so it's pretty important you're kind of across, how certain players are playing in the league.
So what are your thoughts on your 5th round quarterback? How's he going to go this year?
Yeah, well, after week 1 of preseason, I think he went better than the 3rd round pick, to be honest. But look, I'm on the Shedeur train. I'm on the Shedeur bandwagon. So obviously, there's a lot of bandwagoners, or a lot of people sort of talking about that situation. I think something's going to play out with regards to the end of camp. I don't see all 4 quarterbacks being on the roster. I kind of feel like Kenny Pickett may be the guy that kind of gets released or traded or whatever it may be. I think they'll start with Flacco, but to me, I kind of think they're taking their time with Shedeur. Obviously, he comes with a lot of hype, and I feel like they're probably taking him a bit slower than someone like Gabriel. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But if Shedeur's good enough, you know what I mean, he'll get there. So we'll see what happens.
So can I ask, as a Browns fan, how that draft felt? Because when obviously it was a rough first night for Shedeur Sanders and second night. But the Browns, I've never seen, I think, a draft room that apathetic about picking a high-profile draft pick. They put in the pick, they got Sanders. Yeah, it was late, but everyone in the room looked like they'd been made to eat their vegetables. Yeah,
it was weird, to be honest. I thought the pick at that stage, especially after taking Gabriel in the 3rd, it's like why is that the case? Obviously Judkins as well, which is having his own issues at the moment. But yeah, I thought it was a weird pick, and it was almost like, hey, ownership. Jimmy Haslam was quick to deny that it wasn't his pick, but it was almost like it sounded like he's available. They got a late phone call to say, just take him. You know what I mean? Just get him and see. We'll just take him, and we feel like it's value at that, obviously 5th round. But yeah, very weird, and I guess you just play the cards that you get.
It's funny, when you think about it, and you touched on this as well. And it's obvious that you do love to talk football, but you touched on this as well, that you don't know with a quarterback that you draft. The Patriots didn't know they had the GOAT in Brady, and the number of times a team has drafted someone number 1 and they haven't panned out. I think if you're a franchise in desperate need of a quarterback, there are worse things to do than draft 2 quarterbacks in a draft, because you're lucky if you hit on 1 in 2 quarterbacks.
Yep, and it's such an important position because you look at the Brock Purdy situation and Trey Lance, with the 49ers. So, Trey Lance wasn't their guy, a high 1st round pick. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, comes in and does the job. You know what I mean? So, I actually don't mind the logic, Charlie, around taking 2 guys and giving them both an opportunity to see what we actually have. Obviously, it's at the expense of another position, but for a position that is just so highly valued, it's like if you've got a good quarterback, you have a good season. If you've got a bad quarterback and you change, you have a poor season. It's literally on one guy. The whole offense is on one guy. So I understand that way of thinking for sure.
So putting players aside, do you have a favourite game of all time? Is there one that stands out in your memory that, it's like, this is what football is all about?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been asked that question, to be honest, that one game. I think I can't remember the exact game it was, but it was a couple years ago, Browns, Baker Mayfield, we played the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs. I can't remember what week it was, but we had our...
It might have been wild
Yeah,
card.
I think it was
the only one you've won. So
it was, Tom. It was the only one we've won. And I was just like, I was on high on life. I was in my lounge room just fist pumping in the air. I was like, because it just doesn't happen. So we make the playoffs, get a playoff win. Yeah, that was a good one. Also, there was one a couple of years ago. It was a Seahawks game. Russell Wilson versus it might have been against the Packers.
Nah, don't talk about it.
It was a late was a late comeback win, and I'm pretty sure the Seahawks had a couple maybe trick plays or whatever it is, and they came back and won. Off my memory, I'm not sure of that. You know what I'm talking about.
Tom put me on whether or not you denied
NFC
this
Championship game. We don't really need to talk about that because we're up by 21 and we lost. But that's all right.
I remember that one. Yeah, that was an impressive comeback. I was like, wow. I was on the edge of my seat. I just remember that one as well.
Thanks, mate.
Sorry.
What about a favourite play? And I feel like with you, it could be. Do you still watch much college football, or is it more NFL football now?
It's much more NFL these days. I hear about the big names in college, and I'm really interested with regards to college and the whole NIL factor completely changing the landscape of college, and obviously the transfer portal and all that sort of stuff. He's a big name, but Archie Manning, I'm interested to see how he develops. Obviously, we talk about pressure and expectation in America and the difference over there. Well, this kid's got all the pressure and expectation sitting on him. And it's going to be interesting to see how someone like that develops and evolves and handles that pressure and expectation. Obviously, because he's the family name, the quarterback position. But I think NIL has been interesting over there in America. Look, I think I'm a fan of the NIL and college athletes being able to monetize the situation. But I think there's no doubt there's a little bit of sense of frustration with some of the coaches and sort of colleges over there about how it's all playing out at the moment.
Yeah, I've just been watching and reading a little bit about the NIL and how it's definitely put the players in a much better situation where they can almost hold the teams over a barrel a little bit here. But is there a play that kind of sticks out, whether it is college back in the Johnny football days or in the NFL, that kind of sticks out as well?
Look, I love the trick plays. I love the sort of special teams or, when the big man, gets nominated as a receiver and then breaks away from the line of scrimmage and catches. There's a couple, like I remember JJ Watt had one or two a couple of years ago. But to me, I've always been about like the preparation for games and being prepared and having a game plan. Obviously, as a halfback, it's similar to the quarterback. You know what I mean? You go through with your preparation. So I feel like when you can train for that trick play, you train about it all week because you see something that the opposition does. You talk about it, you practice it, and then you get to the field and then the situation or scenario comes up where it's like, hey, we've got this look now. The defense has given us. We've spoken about it. We've trained for it. We've practiced it. Now let's execute. And then, you execute that play to perfection. And whether it may be a trick play or a big man scores in the end zone or whatever it is, that to me, like we have similarities in that in the NRL, and that to me is one of the best feelings when you can talk about it, practice it, execute it. It's like, the plan came off. So I'm always a big fan of some of the trick plays in the NFL.
That process you're talking about, there's one more step sometimes that blows me away, and this is where NFL feels at a different level of scheming and planning. Is when you have that trick play, you've practiced it all week, but you don't use it the first time you get the look, and you don't use it the second time. So you actually show a pattern of behaviour that convinces your opponent that that's what you do in that look, and then you play the trick play. Like, when that happens, when either the OC or the DC keeps their best play in the bag and holds it and shows a different pattern of behaviour before rolling it out. That to me is that's a magic trick. That's some David Copperfield shit.
100%, Charlie, because you don't always want to get your first chance in the red zone, to give them everything you've got, show them your whole playbook essentially. So I feel like if you can control it, you can hold your nerve and just stick to what you normally do, and then, there might be a moment in the game where you actually need something. I mean, the play that has come to mind now is the Philly, Nick Foles touchdown. At that moment in the game, they obviously needed a big play, and it was the time to sort of come up with that. So I love that thought process. It's definitely a similar trait to what happens in the NRL as well. If you have a play, you don't need to show all your cards early on. Just do what you do, and then when the opportunity arises, everyone will be on the same clearly
clear gaps in the Browns roster. But if you could take one player from any other team currently in the NFL and stick him on the Browns, who would it be?
Oh, geez. I think I'd take Saquon Barkley and I'd put him at running back. I just think that the season he had last year, the Browns, we've lost, Nick Chubb's gone to Houston this year. He's been a much-loved player for the Browns for a long time and obviously had his setbacks with injuries, as he got a little bit older. But I just think that the way that Saquon plays is just, he's so impressive. I know he plays behind, obviously, a really effective O-line as well. But yeah, I think Saquon Barkley would be fun to watch. Some of his big plays and some of the hurdles he did last year and the big plays were just so exciting to watch. And it'd be him.
It's showing some great faith in the QB battle going on at the Browns that you didn't snatch Lamar or Josh Allen. Like you're going, we're going to be fine. Shadour's got this covered. We need a running back.
Yeah, well, I told you, I'm on the Shador train. Shador train. I'm happy to be proved wrong, but I'm going to support my guy until he either gets cut or he doesn't get a chance to play. So, now that you toss it up, it's like, geez, I could have just said Lamar Jackson.
GM is tough. GM is a tough role. It really is.
Yeah, I know.
If you're anything as a Browns fan, you're nothing but loyal, especially with what you have to go through. So, mate, you stick on that Shador train for sure. Now, this is one I'm very interested in because we've had the likes of Jamie Soward on this, and his answer was very interesting. But I want to see where you go with if you got to play in the NFL, what would your position be? I feel like I know what it's going to be, but I'm very interested.
Yeah, I think, it's probably an easy one, to be honest. I think I would love to play quarterback. There's obviously, similarities being a quarterback and a halfback in the NRL. The difference is that I have to actually make tackles, and my shoulders are actually quite sore after making tackles in the NRL for 15 years. In the NFL, you don't have to make any tackles really at all, and you get to wear a red bib, at pre-season training, and everyone just knows they don't touch. We look what happened at Bengals training camp the other day. Joe Burrow gets touched, and there's an all-in brawl. You know what I mean? So that'd be pretty cool. But I think, obviously, like I said, there's so much riding on the quarterback, and yeah, there's a lot of pressure, but there's also a lot of rewards, and that challenge of being under pressure, and pressure is a privilege, and being in those positions to win the game. And there'll be games that quarterbacks win and they've had a great game, but when they lose, it's like it's on them. And that opportunity just to sort of learn and go through that process, I feel would be really interesting. I'm a massive fan of, obviously, the quarterback series on Netflix as well. You see the insight to Kirk Cousins and the rest of the guys on there. It's so impressive to watch.
So you obviously you've got a sports mind. You've spent your life in it, but are there still rules in NFL that confuse you? Is there a rule that you don't understand in the NFL?
I wouldn't say. Oh, the one that really sort of they've just changed it was that you have to nominate for the onside kick.
Yeah,
I'm like, why?
Terrible.
Why do you do that?
Terrible.
Don't we want to see kicks getting or the kicking team get the ball back? Because it is such a risk to do. I feel like that needs to change. It's why would I need to tell the whole defense that, hey, we're going for an onside kick, so you need to come and just protect the first line, the 10-yard line, the short, or whatever it is. That one's always, since it's been changed, has really sort of ticked me off. The receiver, the nominated receiver as well, remember that issue with the Detroit lineman who didn't...
That should have gone to the Supreme Court. That was just the worst decision.
Oh, that was awful. That was hard to watch, and I'm like, what's actually going on right now? They're the two that probably really just tick me off, because as a sports fan, I want to see big plays from, more likely the offense. I like to see big plays from the offense. So they're just two times where I'm like, why are we thinking like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine bringing back the NRL, just lining up and just let everyone know we're going for a 40-20 this one. If you want to go back there and just set yourself up, all good, don't worry.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Now, the next couple of questions are going to be interesting, and football movies. A lot of people come on here and say, Madden was the way they got into it, and movies is how they really kind of love the game. And we've kind of dwindled it down to, as long as it has a football reference in there, it counts as a football movie. So, do you have an all-time favourite NFL movie?
I wouldn't say an all-time. I mean, there are a couple of greats. Probably. Jeez. I mean, the name of this podcast is Any Given Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
There's Coach Carter. I'd have to say probably Coach Carter. I mean, well, actually, what's the one where Sunshine's in it again? What's that one? The quarterback.
I don't need to be put on the spot here. It's just, we're asking you the questions.
There's one with the Sunshine. It's jogged my memory.
I'll get there. I will get there.
Yeah, Charlie is the man that's all over it.
Let's remember the Titans.
That's the one. Sorry, Remember the Titans. If I had to pick one, it's Remember the Titans.
That is such a tearjerker. Yeah. Like that is like one of those movies where men have total permission to cry as much as they want. It's not one of those movies. Oh
yeah. And my second favourite, The Longest Yard.
Yes, nice one.
Oh, yes.
Nice one. Yeah. I spoke to a mate about this the other day, and he said it's definitely an NFL movie. And I love a bit of The Longest Yard. And then, point shaving in and up in prison, like, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Am I right? There's been multiple versions of that. Like, they've remade that movie a couple of times, The Longest Yard. Is that... Like, I feel like... Was that Tom Selleck? Longest Yard?
I've got no idea, to be honest.
Was the main one.
No, see, that's it. It was a Tom Selleck movie before it was Adam Sandler. So,
right. No one
and
knows
it was a lot more gritty. I swear to God, there was... Anyway, I'm going to have to care too much about this. But anyway.
Chad and I are born in the 90s, mate. We know Adam Sandler, and that's about it.
You whippersnapper kids.
The GOAT, Adam Sandler. He's the GOAT. I love Adam Sandler.
Yeah, on that topic, Happy Gilmore 2 is really good.
Like, I love it. I don't know why it's getting all the hate. Like, I just feel like it's not a serious movie. If you want to have fun and just see some cameos, like, it's not a serious movie. So I'm all for it. I love it. I mean, it's one of the most watched movies on Netflix ever. So it's doing something.
And also
right.
just the fact that it kind of reflects the experience of the live golf, like the fact that it kind of is about the world a little bit. It's I thought it was awesome.
I thought Scotty was good. Scotty Scheffler, I thought he was good.
Oh, so good.
A couple of times where he was getting arrested, and that
really,
was quite funny.
Really funny.
You see a little bit of personality, or just plays out a little bit where you don't really get too much from Scotty.
Was that he was like putting he's in jail, and he's like putting all like the big guys in their place, going shut up, like I loved it. Scheffler was so funny. Anyway,
I agree.
Good movie. Speaking of great movies, though, the big football movie question is, where do you stand on Draft Day? And do you agree it's the greatest movie of all time?
Yeah, I mean it's a good movie. Like I'll put that. It wasn't the first one that came to mind, to be honest.
It's an appropriate one, being the Browns, though, surely.
Yeah, I know. It is a good movie, but I just had a bit more nostalgia feeling towards, Remember the Titans and The Longest Yard. I mean, I do agree that it is a great football movie, but I put that at let's put that at number 3 in my third position.
All right. You can hang around. That's all right then.
Yeah, that's a real kick in Charlie's plums. He loves that movie. So
yeah. Well, it is. Browns. You know what I mean. Anything to do with Browns, I'm a big fan of. So. And
you came out well. It wasn't if you end the movie and you were like, shit, the Browns suck again. You actually did something pretty good.
Yeah, I know, which is rare for the Browns, to be honest. So.
Now, you've been so good with your time, and especially the way we started getting you on here. We really appreciate you giving up your time, mate. So, the last couple of questions from us. A lot of the hardest things about being, obviously, a fan in Australia, like we've come up with the time and just trying to relate and things like that. What do you find being the hardest thing about, being a big fan, obviously, getting around the Browns quite a lot and living all the way over here in Australia?
Yeah, well, I think it's no doubt just the time zones, obviously, the hardest thing. The red zone obviously starts quite early on the Monday morning. I love... The biggest question I'm asked, Sunday night, I'm like, I set my fantasy lineup, times 4, and then I'm like, what time is my alarm going to go off? Is it 4 a.m. or 5 a.m.? And I quite love getting up early in my household. I've got 4 kids, and it's quite busy. So those couple of hours where I'm up early and I am watching with no distractions or anything, you can kind of use that as a bit of an excuse, or it's like, hey, I'm actually enjoying a bit of time where no one else is awake and I'm watching the NFL and, checking my fantasy lineup. So I think that one for sure. Obviously the primetime games that kind of kick off around that sort of 10:15, 11:15 time zone, depending on the, daylight savings. I think definitely the time zone. But what I'd love to see is when the games, obviously now that it's just been announced, I'm not sure if it's this season or next season, the game in Melbourne. So I feel like we need more games, down in Australia. The NFL have been pretty vocal on making some international sort of appearances. So bring more down, bring more down under, I say.
I agree, but have you heard how much the players whinge about going to London and how jet lagged they get? And it's just like, if you're Australian, you're just going, we have to fly 24 hours to get anywhere.
Yeah, I know. And seriously, they're probably flying on a private jet, with bloody in first class. And I get that. It's tough in season, having been a player for a long time, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, as a player, you kind of you do what you're told, to be honest. So.
Yeah, actually, it's a good point. Sorry, Charles. Those guys that are complaining, I know London, look, I think it's probably closer to 6 or 7 hours away from, some of them. But, you said you played over in New Zealand. What's it like, week of a game, having to fly over to New Zealand and fly back? Do they have something to complain about, or is it just, you go lay on your bed of millions, especially those blokes, and, quiet down a little bit?
Well, so I played... This is my 15th year in the NRL, and 5 of those years I played for a travelling team. So I played 2 years at the Warriors, I lived in New Zealand, and I played 3 years at the Cowboys, where I lived in North Queensland. So every second week I was on a plane travelling. Now you can either use that to your advantage, or you can make an excuse. If you're using it to your advantage, you're working on things like team connection, playing cards, building relationships. And if you're using it as an excuse, you're probably spending time by yourself in your own room, not socialising, not hanging out. So to me, the real, successful and fun times was when we had a really close-knit team, and you're always hanging out together because you are essentially a family. You spend more time travelling, with the team than with your own family at some stages. So, you can use it as an excuse, but I feel like the most successful times, it's like when teams and players buy into building culture and relationships, that's when you have the success.
Beautiful.
So,
not much more you can say about that.
Before we let you go, we've got one more question, but I just want to say, anytime you're in Melbourne, drop into our studio and you can come and talk football with us anytime. Obviously you'll have a bit more time on your hands after the end of the season. Yep. But there's always a spot on the couch for you. Would love to talk more football. And the last question is, what would you say to someone to convince them to follow the NFL?
Yeah, I would say, if you love sport, you would love the NFL. It's got big plays, it's got big hits, there's drama, there's controversy, there's there's big calls week in, week out, and there's big personalities. I think I said it before, there's guys who are out there saying that they're the best receiver in the league, and they genuinely believe that. You see the story and the narrative around, the money and, what these guys are spending on their bodies, the cars they drive, the mansions they live in. That's all stuff that's, it's like a movie. You know what I mean? You want to watch the soap opera and be a part of that. So I feel like, if I was talking to an Australian who may want to, start watching the NFL, I'd say pick a team. Don't pick the bloody Chiefs. Don't pick the best team out there. Just pick another team. Just pick any other team and just start following and start playing fantasy. Some of the young guys in our NRL squad, are just sort of starting fantasy. And I said the best thing you can do is to get into fantasy league and you'll start watching naturally, and you'll get more into it from playing fantasy because you want your players to win, and you'll start watching games more. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. First off, congratulations on the career and, you know, pulling up stumps. What are you going to actually do with all this extra time now? Is it going into the NFL? You've got we need to ask you about your own podcast, and I'm interested in the golf. So what is it now post? Well, you're not quite post career yet, but
Yeah.
what that actually hits.
Yeah, so at the moment I'm just looking at opportunities in TV and radio. I love my sports. I love media. Obviously got my own podcast as well, which I've just done here this morning in the studio, where we just talk about all things NRL. I'd still love to be involved in the game, from an arm's length with regards to some sort of, coaching and mentoring with some young halfbacks and things like that. So yeah, just sort of working it all out in the background. Now, it is, if I'm honest with you, it's a pretty big sort of, transition phase for myself and my family. Sort of coming up, to this sort of period in my life. It's the first time I'm sort of going through it all. So just trying to have an open mind with everything and sort of, have conversations with people that have gone through this part of their life before and sort of how to approach it, and then, seeing where I land. I don't know. I don't have like a definitive answer to say like, hey, I've got this job lined in at this stage. That's a little bit daunting and exciting at the same time because I kind of get to pursue the things that I want to do. But I'm excited for the next chapter. I'm ready for it. There's no doubt, NFL, watching a lot of NFL will be a part of it. As you can tell, I do love my NFL. So yeah, we'll see where it all lands.
Nah, awesome, mate. And like you got me to it. I was about to say there could be a bit of an NFL sprinkled in there just because you do speak so well about it. So, for those that don't know, about your own podcast, and you do a little bit golf on your socials, I've seen. Where do we actually find you?
Yeah, so I got a podcast, Chad Townsend Show. It's on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. Also do a few videos on YouTube. So just if you're on YouTube, search Chad Townsend. You'll see all my videos there. And then I've got a golf club as well. It's called Players Golf Club. It's with myself and two other players, Valentine Holmes and Scott Drinkwater. We sell polos, T-shirts, hats on our website, playersgolfclub.com.au. We film a few course videos, challenges on the course. Love my golf. We play off 9 handicap. So it's a lot of fun. I feel like I'll have a lot more time for golf now that I'm retiring from football as well, which is going to be fun.
There's some great courses down here, mate. So when you are down here, we'll get you into the studio and we'll take you out on the course.
That sounds great. I haven't played in Melbourne on the course, so I heard a lot of sandbelt, but that's on the to-do list for sure.
Nah, beautiful, mate. Appreciate your time and good luck to the Browns this year.
Cheers, boys. Thanks for having us.
Cheers, Chad.